Primarily I do representational imagery, so I'm really considering the kind of traditions of sculpture insofar as the subject, the plinth, the pedestal, but I'm also trying to articulate a kind of new and contemporary dissection of that tradition and to try and see what's relevant about it now. In a way to try and work out what is now and what has always been. As an artist, that's what I'm really interested in. I think each artist develops their own individual relationship to materials. Typically you can find somebody who pushes their will very hard on a material to almost deny its origin, and other artists who celebrate the material and want to bring out its qualities. Say if you're creating a photograph or a film or a painting, it's much more easy to create a complex narrative over time or with different elements within a picture frame. Whereas for sculpture it tends to be the material culture of the elements that you're using is where you often get that elaboration. It's a curious story, the story of the portrait bust, because it was an established and central kind of part of the art world for hundreds of years. Since then it has fallen away and become arguably an irrelevant practice in the art world. But perversely that makes it more alluring to me, and because I like to go through doors that are kind of dusty and a bit rusty and nobody's been in there for a while. In some ways you could argue that a lot of the work being made now is still kind of referring to the monumental tradition, but it's in opposition to it. You could argue it's the unmonumental, working with the temporary, with the collage, with the found object. I've been teaching at Edinburgh College of Art for 8 years. And this year's degree show, it's a really strong group of young artists who are working with all those materials, but they're also, in a way, talking to art history as well. That's the kind of oppositional dialogue that they're having.
The images that you're looking at on the projection screens are taken from China clay production in Cornwall. They act as a kind of departure point for the work, which kind of reimagines that kind of historical industrial production and the production that takes place in the casting room. The audio, which takes the form of a kind of commentary, is a kind of speculative script which there's various characters. One of them is the clay itself that kind of describes its position in its production and its changing of states.
I remind the artists that the production should be seen as a healthy collaboration between themselves and the clay.
I really enjoy working with digital prints, so the idea is to use a very sort of conventional printer / photocopier from the college and make tiles that create large images that I sort of attach into corrugated cardboard. So I tend to use materials that are readily available. I'm using a scalpel a lot, so in a sense it's almost like being Frankenstein, so to speak, in the idea that you're just cutting up flesh and you're adding bones and adding different elements to create a new monster.
In the world of sculpture now, literally anything is your material. So whatever an artist chooses to work with is very key about what they want to talk about. It's difficult to say where an artwork begins and ends sometimes, especially for sculptors, because every material has a baggage, every material has a history, every material has associations.